And welcome to Gordo's Games. It's Gordo here. I'm bringing you some Digimon TCG content. I'm here today with James, who took second place in our card Cavern tournament, taking red-yellow control. This was my first time seeing the deck, and I have to say, it amazed me the things it was doing. I know I have seen it a bit more now, but this is my first point seeing it, and it was just the beauty of how badly it destroyed a rookie rush was amusing for me enough to want to watch it again. So let's get into it then. Alright, James, so thanks for joining us here. So let's go through the details on your deck now then. As I said to people, it's red-yellow control, and your take on it, wasn't it?
Yeah, so red-yellow control is something that people have started to realize is actually quite a strong deck and competes with the top three meta decks. And this is my take on it. So we'll start off with the eggs. I ran four of the Cupimon, which if you have five or more security, draw one. And then I just ran the single copy of the Upamon, which if you have three or fewer security, it draws one. The reason for the full five rather than the consistency with four is because this deck forces everyone to go really long and late game. So you don't want to be running out of things to raise for that free draw.
No, that makes
Um,
sense.
in terms of rookies, we just run six. We run two of the Patamon, which recovers one if you have one or fewer security. And then we run four of the Salamon, which recovers one if you have three or fewer security when it dies.
Did, did the
Go for it.
Patamon ever come off for you at all? I'm always curious because I know it's one or fewer security. It's so crucial.
So in in the actual tournament, it didn't, but in testing, it did. And sometimes, like you can kind of stack your hand. So with the Magnadramons, so there was times when my opponent took me to 2 or 1 in testing. You play Magnadramon, recover 2, your security clears the board. You swing Magnadramon, play Patamon, recover another one, play Magnadramon, recover 2 more.
Okay, yeah, I see.
Um, so you can go from 0 to 4 quite easily, and threaten to kill like 3 or 4 things with the security options, which you'll see in a minute. With the Patamon. So the reason it's only at 2 is because it's like very niche when it becomes relevant, but it is consistently good. If I draw it like early on when I'm still at 5, I will just evolve it over the Cupimon, bring the Cupimon out and swing with it just to chip away and draw an extra card.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah. Um. So for more of our recovery package, we have to run four of these lovely Magnet Angemons.
Oh, we're flexing. We're flexing.
Absolutely. Can't do it any other way. This guy is cost 7, he's level 5, and on play, he just recovers 1. He's also our base of our pressure. So if we've got him early on turn 1, we tend to want to go turn 1 Angemon and then straight into the Seraphimon on turn 2, which when you Digivolve for 3, it recovers another 1. So, at this point, we're going up to 6 or 7 security, and therefore we're getting a 12k security attack plus 1 swing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Right off the bat, which
Great
is
combo.
really nice in the matchups where you have to push the pressure back on your opponent earlier on, so they also have to think about defending and not just attacking your massive security stack.
And it's beautiful when there's rookie rush matchups because Seraph actually gets attacks and doesn't die.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it just sits on the board, and into rookie rush as well. Sometimes you don't even need to go into this. You can just sit on this and you just clear out all the fight. You just sit on the level 5s and just clear all the 5k rookies, and you just run them out of cards.
This is the beauty of it. I mean, as I said, I watched the one game and I was like, yeah, this is. I like the train of thought here. The amount of control. I think this is like the very kind of first controlling deck overall that we're seeing on this side because there's things like Ceresmon which control boards and that to an extent, but this controls basically everything. The amount of things they throw down, how much they want to attack you, how they react to you. It basically puts them in a mindset of you have full control from your side with everything you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a little bit of this in when we had the 1.0 format. Right towards the end of it, there was a blue-yellow variant that started to kick around, which effectively the yellow was just the Magna Angemons, the Seraphimons, these guys because it's slash Angemons, um, plus all the blue like memory manipulation low end as like the very first kind of control deck, and then this is what's been born. This is the monster that's kind of been born from that that theory and ethos there.
Yeah, no,
So we've got two slashes here. This guy again evolves over our level 5, and he's just really, really good board control. He very often as well can let you deal with cards like Omnimon when you wouldn't otherwise be able to. You just play your level 5 out, and then if they swing with Omni and don't restand it, or they swing twice, you can go over the top, minus the Omni for 8k, and swing into it. The deck really struggles with the 15k, so he's like invaluable for that.
yeah,
And
no.
again, the other matchups like Rookie Rush, it just pops a level 4. And it's just nuts.
We just like that statement there. Absolutely every card inherently does something to annoy Rookie Rush.
Yeah, I mean it's the weirdest thing because the deck, people might think the deck's too slow to deal with Rookie Rush and Impildramon. While Impildramon is much harder because of the jamming and it's a little bit more security focused, this should destroy Rookie Rush every single time without even thinking about it. In terms of the other level 5s that I ran for the tournament the other day, I ran one of the Angewoman. I think sometimes being able to recover one for 3 is just nuts, especially when you're in a tight position or you're getting memory starved. So again, it's a little bit niche, but she come in real clutch every now and then. And then I also ran a bit of a transition package, which was 3 of the Sylphimon. The effect was pretty much irrelevant in every bit of testing I've ever done with it, but it does allow me to go into 2 copies of Gallantmon. Inherently, the whole purpose of this deck is just to keep removing all of your opponent's stuff, so they will end up with a huge discard pile. And Gallantmon is just a bit of additional late game pressure to take normally what is either 2 or 3 free security before he actually swings in himself, just with his ability. So, although that doesn't come up that much, there are matchups where it does, and it's super useful. But I don't know whether that warrants him staying in the deck.
Yeah, it's just another form because I know people. I've seen people running the Shield of Just, and he's just like, he's basically a Shield of Just without 2k off of it when it's got the Tamer out, and then removal of security. Because obviously with this deck, because of the amount of recovery in that, I guess your win condition trying to poke for game, Gallantmon comes in quite handy for that because you're
Yeah,
always pushing late games.
yeah, absolutely. I was testing and I played in a locals against a red deck, and actually I blundered it because I got too excited that I was going to win with Gallantmon. But I raised up to Sylphimon in the raising area. My opponent gave me 4, so I raised the Sylphimon, and he had blocker 2 security on board. So I and over 20 in his discard. So I literally just had to Gallantmon, KO the blocker, swing, discard the 2 security, and the Gallantmon swing hits for game against the empty stack. And that was a kind of situation where I was behind on board and very limited security, and the only way I was winning was with Gallantmon. So there are times where he is potentially playable, but it's a toss up, like how often he's relevant. That I'll leave that for people to think about.
Yeah, it makes sense.
My mind's not made up yet. Although my favorite card in the deck is this security Digimon right here. The Ankylomon is like actually disgusting. And I've played matches against like Rookie Rush where I've recovered up to 7, so they put 4 swings in and pulled 3 out in one go.
And if anybody wants to see that content, we have it. Ankylomon Strikes Back.
And again, it just happens, but I just win. So there is that take with this. This one, I'm specifically playing this one because it allows me to evolve into my 5s and draw cards if I'm drawing dead. So I play it for consistency. Your alternate would be to play a split or play the red security Digimon to enable your red option cards, which I'll show you in a bit. Speaking of, so the first 4 option cards in any kind of security control deck that you have to play is 4 Gaia Force.
Of course.
Obviously, it's just the best single target unconditional removal in the game. It is expensive and it does feel bad on occasions playing it from your hand for 8, but at any point you hit it in your security, you're just happy. except for the first swing with that 2K rookie. But any other time, you're really happy to hit this, and it one for ones everything.
Yeah, exactly. Just the level of removal. No matter what happens, it's removing something. So,
Yeah. The only deck that like this feels really bad into is like Black Cranium on blockers.
which we see far and few between because they get bullied by gets bullied by absolutely everything.
Yeah, which is also like a super niche deck. So if you do play this and you do run into black, sorry. um, the next card I play, my security card I play 4 copies of Eden's Javelin. Um, this is also quite an interesting choice because generally this deck you're only sitting around 5 or 6 cards, so it will only be killing 6Ks. But for me, I think even if I hit this out of my security, it's just a draw one as well. It's consistency. It's going to pop a rookie. It's going to pop a level 4. Um, it's super useful. It's still one for wanting something. It might not be killing the big like level 5s and the 12Ks like you would want stuff to, but it's always useful and it always has an effect. I don't want dead cards.
Oh yeah, and just the draw one's enough. And if you lower it, if it's on the occasions you're gonna Omni with additional security attacks, you lower that. Sometimes that's enough because the Seven Heavens or something like that, or a Gaia Force comes down, it's just to follow up and deal with it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That dream's never actually happened to me, but in theory it should be happening. So exactly. So you sometimes you'll Eden's Javelin, you can minus something, and then if it's got the thing they're swinging with has extra security, then we've got Seven Heaven as well, which is a great card. 7 cost minus 10k DP, deals with most stuff. Um, use it to kill like the level 5 chains before they can go into the level 6s and make them start again. Is just really clutch. Um, on top of Seven Heaven, we also have a bit of like kind of manipulation and mind games with 2 copies of Holy Wave.
I think that card
Um,
triggers people most of the time. It's the when you're like, oh, I'm safe, I'll recover.
yeah, it can be super triggering when someone's pushing for game and this pops out of you. I've had it pop out of security and recover Gaia Force, and then Gaia Force blows up whatever else they're going to be swinging with, and they're like, "It's just really has that happened?" And it's like, "Yeah, it does." Also, like for your turn one plays, because this is quite reactive, you don't have a massive amount outside of like the Angemon. So sometimes just holy waving on one and just recovering an extra one is absolutely fine. It doesn't feel great, but it's fine. I teched in 2 copies of Lightning Paw because obviously Rookie Rush and Pilgrimon are things. And you'll also find when people start to see you blowing up their entire chains with like Gaia Force, Eden's Javelin, Seven Heaven, they'll start to just drop like rookies and try and come at it at another approach. So then you just pour the rookies and kill them all.
Yeah, they adapt. They adapt the same nature when it's like when you play against Shine. Naturally, if you build up tall with Shine, it just blows at your board. So you just think, okay, throw small things out and poke that way.
Absolutely, and you've got the answer for that as well. And um, it's super effective because if someone chooses to spend like 7 memory going wide, and you deal with it all with just 1 lightning pour for 3, at that point you're so far ahead on memory, you just win. We also run the 1 copy of Plasma Stake, which deletes something with 13k or higher DP. It checks so much stuff in security on your opponent's turn. And it's there to kind of deal with the Omnis and your Millennium Mons and things like that on your own turn. You can't really run it at more than 1, in my opinion, because it's just so dead so much of the time. But it does warrant a slot because it can be really clutch on occasions.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because half the time, I mean, it's great for against the red matchups when they're buffing themselves, going above 13k with Phoenix and things like that. But if they've got an Omni sitting there, that's the only time it's live on your side. Is if they have a Ragnar just sat there or an Omni just sat there. Apart from that, it's a dead card in hand because everything resets to 11 or 12, and it's like, oh, this is annoying.
Yeah, I'd really like to probably not play it, but like the cards that you replace it with don't come out until BT4.
Yes.
So, I also ran a copy of Blade of the True, which is a 2 cost trigger draw 1 card for every 2 security you have. The card's inherently bad.
You say that, but I saw the games you was playing and you was getting 2 or 3 draws off it. Because I mean, the Rookie Rush game, I'm pretty sure it went off and you was at like 5 or 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he just seems to just keep cycling better things into your hand to deal with the board. So I think as a one of tech, it's not a bad idea.
So it started at 3, I believe, and then came down to 2, and then came down to 1 because like turns 1 and 2, especially if you've either used Holy Wave or Magnanimon on your first turn, and then this is draw 3. It's really really good to support the consistency of the deck. But what was happening was it was like my last 1 or 2 security very often, and then it's like completely dead. And it's not the kind of thing you want to be hitting when you're hoping your security is killing off your opponent's board.
Yeah.
So as a one of it's really really good, and whenever it draws 2 or more, it's solid. If you have, like if it ever draws 3, then it's just superb for its cost, and it also is just another low cost option to starve your opponent and put them to 1, rather than always having to give them 5, 6, 7 upwards.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
So in that same sense, we run Red Tie Tamer. He lets us obviously play our Gaia forces, play the Plasma Stake if we ever draw them from hand. He also lets us do that memory control. And what I found from the weekend is he's really, really relevant in letting my Patamons, my Salamons, and my Ankylomons trade with Rookie Rush. Like these then trade with 3Ks. This guy then goes over all of the 3 and 4Ks. And trades with the 5Ks. And I've had occasions where I got 2 down, and then he starts hitting the level 6s or just trades over the top of the 5K rookies. And that's just really nuts. Just again to slow them down at the start, because the whole matchup is if you can control the first 3 turns without taking too much security damage, then they just can't build up enough momentum to beat you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. People complain about obviously the red tamers and that not being the greatest overall. Like the four cost is not only relevant in red, and even then it's not that relevant. But the 2 costs, I always thought it's not a bad card. It gives you the memory choke if you really want it. The extra K buff, and it applies to all Digimon, so at least it has some sort of effect in your turn to do something.
Yeah, fun fact: 4 cost red tamer makes red Omni beat this deck.
Oh, okay.
Because they can just play tamer, play the slow game, build full chain up to something like Phoenix in their raising area, and when they bring it out, he's getting 3 or 4 swings. And because he's like 15k, you're gonna need to get lucky and either hit like double 7 heaven, 7 heaven even, or like Gaia Force plus something else, or the plasma. Like more often than not, he's getting the 3 swings in.
Okay, so is it say anything that's got high amount of security checks is basically bad for this deck?
Yes, like if you are playing this deck, what I would say to you is any inheritable line where you know once they get into a 6, it's going to have an extra security check. Remove it before it gets there. The idea is you want your security to 1 for 1. You want a card for card from either your hand or your security with what your opponent is doing, and anything that has security +1, security +2 doesn't allow you to do that as off or it leaves it to more chance, and therefore is bad for this. It puts you on the back foot.
Ah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, I've had someone literally play red against me. They just built up in the raising area, put 2 4 cost red tamers down, and then raised out, went into Omnimon and just swung 15k quad strike, like, and I didn't hit a Gaia Force, so
You hate to
game
see it. You
you
really do.
I love to see it. It was brilliant. But that's exactly that, like really, really good. So moving on to while we're talking about tamers, we also run 3 of the TK. Super important to not let your opponent memory starve you. Like when you're inherently playing stuff that costs lots, being left at 1 and only being able to take 1 action a turn can be really damaging. Whereas sometimes if you run it, things like Lightning Paw plus Mistymon can clear 5k rookies in the Rookie Rush matchup, and that can be really relevant sometimes.
Hmm.
I don't run Misty, so it's not relevant for me, but it is
Yeah,
a thing. And
Misty's
also,
a very niche kind of thing because it's the
yeah,
3K now it doesn't seem to kill enough.
it doesn't kill too much, and actually, it's far better at dealing with rookies that are like greens rookies, and purples rookies, rather than the actual Rookie Rush matchup. But it's still a card that deserves a couple of slots. And if I was going to take out the Gallants and the Sylphies, I'd be putting Misties back in.
Yeah.
Um, TK obviously also lets you have a look at your security, which when you've got like 5, 6, or 7 of them is really cool. And take a card from it so you can manipulate your hand for what you think your opponent's going to do and try and find the answer out of there. And it also gives you a lot of knowledge about whether or not your security is going to be able to deal with your opponent's game plan and lets you play accordingly, which I think is really important.
No,
Um,
that makes sense. I mean, I think TK. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like he's the strongest tamer going this set. I mean, alongside the Davis, they just seem to add the most value all around him. The decks to put in.
yeah, because both of those two tamers provide so much consistency to what you're doing. This, I would say, TK is slightly stronger than Davis because TK gives you that added information about what's in your security. And that can be really invaluable because if you see a certain amount of cards in your or a couple of copies and you know you're only running 2 or 3, you have to play like you're not going to draw it. And you have to play around what your security is. If I know my security is like incredible, then I can just pass turns and my opponents will just swing into me and I let my security do all the work.
Apart from the times when TK is going against you completely and you end up having the full red security, is like, no, don't do this to
Yeah,
me.
yeah, it does happen. It does happen. But it is what it is. Like I say,
Exactly, exactly.
it shouldn't happen very often, but sometimes it does.
Oh,
Um,
that's the beauty of this game.
yeah, the last card which we put to the back is obviously kind of like part of the bread and butter, which I only run 3 of, but I would recommend running 4. Is the Magnadramon, which we talked a little bit about at the start. Is obviously just hard play for 11. If you have 3 or less, you recover 2, and also can throw your rookies out if he ever gets a swing in. Chaining these guys together towards the end of games or when your opponent feels like they need to start applying pressure is just really punishing. So
No,
it's a super nice card for this strategy.
yeah, Magnadramon. I've seen it puts in so much work, and it's almost disheartening for your opponents when they see it's like just recover 2. It's like, no, I've just made you down to 3, and when you go back up to 5 or 7 and go back up to 5 or something like that, and it's like I've literally achieved nothing in this game. And I think the whole control of this deck is you're literally destroying your opponent's soul.
I think it does help. Although when people start running into the mirror match, that could be interesting to see who crumbles first.
Oh yes, I'll remove yours. I'll remove yours. Let's just enjoy a back and forth of which security Digimon's going to get the most attacks out.
Yeah, that's basically it. Uh, that's the profile. Is there any questions you wanted to ask about it?
Well, obviously, we spoke about a little bit of the matchups. Red Omni's a bad one for it, just on the basis if you're unlucky in security and getting numerous checks out. So I'm assuming Red Ragnar falls into a bad matchup as well for the same principle.
Yeah, yeah, definitely can be. It's not one that I've done a massive amount of testing against. But obviously, if your opponent's like kind of play just goes greedy, and you can't deal with the level 6 off the start, and then they go into Ragnar. Ragnar's pretty dangerous against this deck. You have nothing that deals with him apart from the Gaia Force.
Yeah, and unless they're taking in that beautiful little one-cost delicate planet, I feel like that card's going to see some relevance going into our metas with things like this around.
Yeah, definitely, and I think Red's also got War Greymon, so
Oh, that's I had I played this deck the other day against one of my friends, and he decided to War Greymon me, and it's just like that's uncalled for. So
yeah,
I feel like that'll be a tech. That's going to be a tech piece coming back because it was always a one of in set one, wasn't it? Never saw much more play than that.
yeah, no, but if this does grow in popularity, then it may do. The thing with this deck, I think that will stop it from growing that much is it's not the easiest thing in the world to pilot. It doesn't really play itself, and you have to change the way you play the deck for every individual matchup. So with a lot of the decks, you can kind of just kind of run up your chains and see what you get. Whereas this, you have to be thinking several turns in advance about what your opponent's going to be doing.
So
Um,
high level of skill needed for it. High level of patience as well with it because I've seen people are either extremely patient where they'll literally do nothing, keep passing turn until you put something on board for them to remove, stock up on cards in hand, and then you've got obviously individuals that will be slightly aggressive, play out some bodies just to get the odd poke here and there as you go along. So
Yeah, you've got it's the you've really got to know how and when to pull the trigger with it, and when you can just keep passing back to your opponent, and that's just through testing really and practice. But it
no,
is definitely fun to play.
oh, it's just good to hear. I mean, and your rounds itself. I know you played Rookie Rush for one. That was beautiful. That just destroyed that. What were you? And you had green at the end, which obviously went on for an extended amount of time. What were your
Yeah,
other?
the green matchup was very long, and obviously the hardest matchup I'd say for this deck is green because green just plays so much stuff out for so little memory cost. And my opponent after game one figured it out pretty fast. You know, he jammed the Ceres Mons and it stopped me from playing anything. So it was just a waiting game, really.
Oh yeah, and then he went on to throw the game for himself. We have the content of that one as well. The time he threw
Yeah,
the game.
yeah, he did throw game one by swinging into the Salamon with the Bancho Stingmon when he could have just swung for game.
Lit-
And then kind of went, oh, what does that card do? It's like, yeah, it recovers. So
Me and the viewers sat there together. It's like, no, he didn't do that. It's clearly he was joking. I was like, no, he did that. Okay.
yeah, I mean that I did check the security afterwards, and he wouldn't have actually won on the swing because I would have cleared the additional attacker. But it definitely
Didn't
you
help.
definitely don't leave it to that chance. You don't swing at the Salamon.
No, exactly. What else did you play against match wise?
So I also played an Impale Dramon. Did really well with the checks with the Impale Dramon match. Fortunately, so it plays a little bit like Rocky Rush, and if you get lucky and you get like the Seven Heavens and the Eden's Javelins and stuff to kill the jammers, it plays exactly the same. They just can't keep up, and you run them out of gas. So that went down fine. And then the other matchup was against the Red Omni deck. I was actually very fortunate that my opponent didn't appear to be playing the 4-cost ties that give him plus security. So it meant that I could focus on just clearing the +1 security attack like Volcanic Dramons and things like that, and not have to worry about a chain in the raising area that was going to come out and swing for 3 or 4 against me.
Yeah, no, like you said, that would have been an interesting way to see how those security checks go down, though. Yes, I think that's the beauty of this deck. It's like, well, I played this security meme deck the other day. It's literally a game of Russian roulette for yourself. Obviously, you get the free information from TK, but apart from that, it's literally what can come out and hit them for all the things I want them to do.
Yeah, it really is, and that's why you run so much like recovery stuff to try and make that kind of game of Russian roulette as consistent as you possibly can with it.
There we go. I think we've named it now. Russian roulette.
Oh, I've heard over in America it being called the Mackie D's, which I'm not sure I agree with. I'll stick with 2-color control.
Yeah, I mean it makes more sense. Mackie D's. I'm gonna just glance over any sort of reference there on it, but yeah, I mean definitely an
Yeah.
obscure one.
Yeah.
But no, all in all, great games to watch. Interesting deck. As I said, this was my first time seeing it, so it really was a bit of an eye opener. Now, obviously, it's kind of taken the craze everywhere. I'm seeing it pop up in all sorts of tournaments, so it's interesting to see different points of it come out. But for me, this is my starting point. This is what I've seen it from. I really like the Gallantmon. I think it's an interesting tech. Obviously, like I said, it may not play into it all the time, but I think it's an interesting one because it can be a win condition late game
Yeah.
because how long you can stall out for. I really love the flexes on the only particular cards that you have like 2 copies of. Do you only own 2 Holy Waves and alt?
No,
Yeah.
I've got all the alts of everything.
I thought it's like, is he just flexing the ones he has alts for? Is this why there's only 2-2 ratios here? Is that
Yeah.
what it is?
No, yeah. I was very fortunate that when the game came out, we in the UK we didn't have a massive shortage, obviously, of stuff, and I just snapped up so many of the alt arts because I just think that this game has incredible card art. So I've invested into that.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, but like I said, you played amazing. The games are great. Like I mean, for me as a content creator, it was good to be able to get some of those matches down, and to see how it played out and the things it demolishes. So I feel like this is going to be one to watch. This is going to be one we're going to have to watch out for more so because of the fact of, like I said, how much Rookie Rush is played now in any competitive tournaments because
Yeah.
of the style it is and the consistency of that deck. I feel like this is going to take a heavy precedence. But you've heard it here first. I mean, Red Omni, stack, stack, stack. You can beat it.
You can watch everyone start taking two level four, two 4 cost ties back into their red Omni decks, even
Uh,
though it's a bad card.
I mean, yeah, I've seen like in most Red Omnis now, they are running it as a one-of because Memory Choke is literally destroying Red Omnis this set, which is unusual because it didn't in the first set and that, but now it seems to be a massive problem. I guess, and that's because memory tamers like Davis, TKs, and that are basically everywhere, so people can maximize the turns.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, we'll leave it there then. I will get this obviously all this uploaded for everybody shortly. But thank you for joining us, James, and
Thank you very
congrats on the
much.
second place. And obviously, yeah, that's
Yeah,
it from us.
lovely. Cheers. Thanks very much.